Hello, Rajan. How's been the week? You have been talking about NemoClaw and the entire enterprise of option if you were Claw. So, how's been your week? The lot of Claude, and so can you just share some of your thoughts about?
So in between flood, I was at catch up on Pittsburgh from sorry. So it went big, all the excitement with the world happening with open flaw and Nemo flaw, and I wasn't surprised though that no Nemo flaw that came number two on data printing project.
Yeah, more like repeat all the stars and so on and so. If you really look at this trend, right? Why did you think this trend even emerged in the first place? Why it took off at the rate which no one ever expected before? Or what led to this trend?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, what to make of this trend, and maybe it's an extensional scaling law that Satya talks about, right? So Satya talks about scaling it up from a perspective of how the research report which Inchala paper saying that every 6 months there is going to be like an architectural unlock that will create new inflection points, and sometimes it is in the model, sometimes it is, and in this case of open flow it was not the model, we the things around the model, we like to call the some book the author flow is design. Now what turns out is that it's very empowering, and it is very in some sense it's more like a very power user car kit, right? And the focus is not as much on the engine, but you can mold it to any way you want. I wouldn't even call it a car kit. I put it in the transform. You feel a movie. Like the cars can sort of reconfigure themselves and it can become whatever you want, and that actually thing fascinates people. And the world is still having conversation about, hey, who has the power for the token so right? Or is it codex and things like that? But we move beyond that phase. You are seeing all these agent applications that are performing platform assaults. And that's what OpenFlow enables. So it is wild, sure. But then, when you take it to enterprise, people get afraid. And then that one came along and say, okay, whatever issues that you have, they are Mr. CISO's CPO about security and reliability and development. Let me put a glass box around it. Right? That's what led to NemoClaw.
I think the way I look at it is probably slightly different angle. People have been talking about AI economy, and till they have been visualizing AI economy in terms of enterprise perspective. So when it came to open flow, it helped users adopt autonomy from an individual person. And that's where I believe the strong unlock really started to happen, because people started thinking, what is that in their workflow in their day to day life? Can they unlock value by delegating to an AI or an agent? And they tried to do that within the existing ecosystem through computer use, etc., but did not actually take off. So now OpenClaw actually became the true assistant, and EvoClaw, the enterprise form of it. I think that's where the unlock really came. Just adding to what you said, right? It was not just about the model, etc. Of course, Claude tried to copy, Perplexity tried to copy with computer use, but what fundamentally they are missing out, it is not about the computers. It's about independent autonomy, saying that, hey, can this unlock in some server, some remote location, and how it can do use beyond. So I think the flexibility of the ecosystem is really the one that's causing an unlock. Yep, being our friends at YT are some of the people who are trying to utilize and so on and so forth. Unlock different use cases. And you have been mentoring a lot of people on this. Can you share where within the organization layer is unlock happening? Who are the first adopters? And he really gets to be the first adopters versus who are the first adopters? So I would say definitely Farmberg, for sure, like more using more than you guys that I see. I was, for me, the training is slightly different. As you come from embedded background, so you use value, words like value. Like, when individual users are looking at it, they don't put value, get fine. It's very, this, oh, such wiry things that able to do, and, that actually was. So the easy inflection points are all about, okay, something that I thought was possible when I did not see
that turn into reality or something that I not even think it is possible, then I'm starting to do, right? So founders, building founder office is literally the most important, the first use case that I'm seeing. Now it could be like a very early stage founder, it could CV founder, it could be like, a company, like, CEO founders who still running the business. And they are actually coming and saying, okay, so this is supposed to be my client format. Or one of the founders that we work with, he also called, but so I do the okay. It's something that can observe you, dispatch you, get all the nitty of it, the quirks and things like that. Remember that. And then do a proactive activity on top of it, like what you would expect it to be. So for one by use case that was like, really mind blowing for me is that there's this claw which was able to look at churn analysis and did a proactive churn save. And just that one aspect goes and creates so much, I would say, wild delight that then, you can't just think of it. Like the other case that I've seen is where uh, what happened is that, like see today, everybody had these sales tools, where you have Pong, you have these tools to take notes, and then you have the CRM and all of the data all sitting in disparate places. Now, if you're building, how do I write a better email writing tool? Right? You can chat GPT and saying, okay, I have this past data of so many emails that I sent. I'm looking at what worked well and what did not work well. Sure, there is that going to be helpful. But what if you were able to get all the data that is available to you and bring that and then make a proactive solution saying, hey, this is at 9, 8 a.m., this prospect, if he gets this email, right? And here is the context that we discussed from a transcript of a conversation that we had. And here is a news item that is going on. And at 9 a.m., at night 8 a.m., can I actually send this email? That kind of proactivity when it happens, then the SDR, the GTN engineer, then they loop them up. Right? So this is the type of proactive use cases, a proactive wild delight that is happening that actually bring people's mind. And that transformer, that Pokemon, this is like a great metaphor to use in the personal life is a Pokemon. In an enterprise context, when it comes to NemoClaw, it is being the corporate platform.
I totally agree to what you said. I felt when NemoClaw came, the unlock happened at three levels within the organization. Number one, at a individual level, there were tasks such as mundane reporting to be done, which should mean log into the system, log into the database, get some report just because somebody in the organization wants to look at that metric and data. So individual level unlock was high. Then it came department level unlocks. So people think that it's not. Departments are a organism by itself. They work very differently than an individual. So, and then in enterprise level unlock, which is like a societal unlock. So when we look at clause within enterprise ecosystem, there are individual clause, there are department clause, and organization clause. When the cascade effect started really to happen, I felt the unlock really happy. On the topic,
I want to ask you, hello, yeah, sure. What surprised you the most
um,
with NemoClaw? That's it.
so I think the first reaction, even in Expo when it was launched, and within a few hours, I get a call saying that, hey, can you help me with the installation of and the was very excited.
That NemoClaw. The first 2 weeks are like, help me set it up. I know there are a lot of people still struggling with the NemoClaw setup, and like last weekend.
Yeah, it is very edgy. By having said that, I think the real value unlock that happened is people they say how many hours, like is it maybe 2 3 hours, I don't know, 45 minutes, like let's pick a number and stick with it. But the real unlock really happened when we started digging into use cases and what part of the use cases were really boring, mundane that one was doing, and the unlock happened, and it started happening at strategic level versus operational level. And that's where I started seeing that, hey, the wave for this is probably top down when it comes to NemoClaw, whereas the wave for OpenClaw was bottom up. So I think there were two different waves. The way I look at this is like, this is an iPhone movement. I don't know if you remember the days when iPhone was relatively not like very moving. When it was launched, people line up in queues to wait for that iPhone to be like new version of weekly, and people as like literally knocking at the doors. They'd say, "I want that first version of NemoClaw, that first version of NemoClaw to be installed in my machine," and really see. The funny fact is, like Vijay is the CEO, he's the one who also installed it. So this is the first time the drive at the top is so high that it is causing a wave of unlocks that were not seen before. But I think that's a big difference.
Yes, I can also relate to that. Like, I've had multiple conversations with either large companies saying, I want to do it. My daughter wants to do it. Like, can somebody come and okay, it's installed? It's like, I mean, I'm sure the installation problem will get solved, but too, the whole installation surprise you're talking about is that it is like, everybody wants to grab their iPhone, everybody wants to grab their OpenClaw or NemoClaw, which to me, it feels like the Pokemon wants to go in one, and they're like, okay, I turn it personal and turn it relevant, and then the question to security, etc., will shape up. So that's how it is going forward.
How Pokemon is evolution, NemoClaw will have some evolution.
Yeah, Digimon and NemoClaw will have its own evolution, yeah, some kind of way. So what was the biggest use case that you saw?
I see mostly the surprise to me for enterprise was unlocking financial services, which was so unexpected for me. I thought we are the last people on planet Earth to catch something like this. And within hours, I got a call and had a conversation. Hey, we do have this financial reporting, not necessarily regulatory by design. And I would wait days for data scientists to actually get this. Is there a way I can use NemoClaw to get it by myself? And that was the first unlock. And the people who actually contributed you to that is the data scientists who are at a junior level, a junior financial analyst, and probably some what we call old world report analysts, other one who get related. Okay? And people think it's just about getting a few queries to the database. Well, it's far beyond that. Well, actually, when you look at it from an enterprise perspective, you're taking a part of the workflow that one does, which would probably happen if you look at the old world workflow versus new world workflow. Old world workflow, we set a notification on Teams, or we send a notification on probably an email, and that person sort of deciphers it. You get 4 questions, and you get 4 answers back, and a report gets compiled and then gets sent to you. And by the time the report actually gets you, the relevance of that information has already passed because it's not available to you when you're having that conversation with that prospect, customer, or maybe whatever you're doing, trying to analyze to unlock value. And now you send a WhatsApp message or a Telegram message, and you get an information back to you within probably a couple of minutes. It's not seconds, it's all good infrastructure. But having said that, there was a huge unlock that, hey, this was the first use case that was like probably which was supposed to be in high use case but got unlocked. And once this possibility got unlocked, now every department is trying to take a look at it, saying like, hey, that was supposed to be the most complex one. And when you keep the complex one, what are the possibilities of the easier ones? I think can you take autonomous decisions and else? But I think that's also a surprising moment for me.
So I feel that there are two directions to this. Like, yeah, this movement from one, I want to sort of talk about all the conceptual, like, understanding that people are still missing, and like, some organizations get it and they are able to really do well. And the other part is the whole Nvidia coming on this, right? And a lot of questions and discussions about like, hey, what is Nvidia doing? It's a hardware company. What layer? What strategy? And Jensen in his note also said that, like, look, we just bear out of strategy. Like, we come to GBC, we announce it, people understand it after 4 years, right? I want to cover both aspects. On the first part, what I want to say is that, one question that at least was like a mental shift for me was, so both of us use the language, right? For me, the mental shift was, it's like not to think about it of ease place, but also to think about it of the actor, which is a very, very, like, political sort of conversation. And Tashi, thanks to you, I understood the framing of, hey, like every organization needs to be thinking about it, these 3 layers. Number 1 is AI assisted. Number 2 is AI first. And then number 3 is AI. There's somebody is building a chatbot and saying, hey, the chatbot can write better emails because I have like 20,000 emails data and I have mined from it and I can actually write a better copy here. That is like an AI assistant. Like you're using an AI tool, same humans doing same work, right? Or doing it better, we make it up word, they're writing it in 20 minutes, you can make it more productive. But AI first is saying that, look, that is not the right way to think about it. I need to actually build a desktop application, get it connected with the existing tools and things like that. Reimagining the experience with using AI, but still the humans of the center. But when it comes to AI native, is there you're saying, okay, we're going to step back and say that this is the organization, the conversation that they had with Anish, and saying, okay, now if I were to build this from first principles, if I were to build this from the start, what would I be? What I would do is I would think about saying, okay, how many agents do I need? How many humans to support those agents? And that is where it becomes like agent driven. But then, very, very political conversation. Because you can't have this conversation with like somebody in your team because then you're saying, hey, we're going to relook at what is the relevance of your.
I think if you look at this conversation, right? Today I woke up to the news. I heard saw this. I think Walmart CEO stepped down. Oh yeah, I think that's news. Still the catch up on that. The couple of the CEOs are stepping down, and the conversation was why stepping down. I think he made a beautiful statement. I hope it's Walmart. If I'm wrong, I'll
Yeah.
But having said that, the top company CEO stepped down and he said, uh, to lead an agent era, I think we require leadership, and the leadership should be agent first, AI first, so on, so on. And that was a very powerful move as a leader because he said, "Hey, last 2 years I've been dabbling with what does AI first commerce look like, and it requires a new kind of leadership to make the change." So it's not about him stepping down or making old. It's probably this late pretty easy piece. So and he's re-looking at the way in which organization has to move forward. So when it comes to AI first organization, the genesis, the thinking process of those organizations are going to be far different. I think, and seeing that in top level leadership, I think every CXO today, I mean, we are a lot of calls from the board, the CXOs, and like, hey, what should my NemoClaw strategy look like? Within hours of the lot, see, which really puts a different frame of mind, seeing that they are starting to look at what does future look like and get the organizations ready, and importantly get themselves ready, because if you scale up you can scale the organization up. I think that's where I feel that six are also interested in work. Maybe we'll have a different uh, framing to this question, right? We looked at high level of interest from CXOs, which was a moment of NemoClaw and the shape of the Egyptic organization. We also have a friend Lee who's working on the future of work and the composition of the organization. So if we ought to start asking the question, right, what does agent first organization look like? Because you're doing some work around it, etc. What does it look like? What are the early signals towards agent first organization? How will it shape up?
Before I do that, so that's a course of the CS webinar. I didn't see the news. Then last week I was reflecting and in the talk I also said that look, Santanu in the best zero by fine. Yeah, but I don't know whether it was board mediated or whether it was like voluntary. But like the Siddha is clear that someone was legendary, right, who actually changed enterprise software to SaaS, was decided that maybe he's not quite fit for like maybe the agentic mode, right? Which to me was like shocking. The shocking and terrifying, but also was really big because if Shantana has to actually refound itself, then all of us have to refound themselves. And you're just talking about another data point on saying, hey, I need to first refound myself. So before I can refound the entire organization, like, and that requires like a mindset shift. And I think there are some leaders which in like like online they're saying some leaders are wartime leaders, some leaders are peacetime leaders. And wartime leaders have to actually do 200% pivot. And like, pivoting large organization is very, very hard. And I would say that, this data point again, like, sort of reaffirms that, if you are not going to keep fast enough to this AI native mindset, then you end up becoming a right? You end up becoming a fast you need.
You talk earlier about was take care of toxins as we meet. Yeah.
Yeah, so the change is to be the individual level and the mindset. Like leaders like Satya are able to break that change, and I think a lot of organizations like that look at pace and like the way folk like Satya are bringing the change. Of course, like Satya has a setup with only leadership change, and then he's setting up the strategy right to the best of his ability. But the pace of change is so high that anybody who's an incumbent is actually going to carry the dead weight of old concept. But when platform should happen, when the should happen, all the leadership ideas, like asset suddenly turns into liability. And that is why if you see, I remember this talk from Kiki Nenpote, now the CEO of Nvidia. He said, if you really look at like different platform shifts that are happened, everybody thought that I have an asset, I have this cash flow, I have these enterprise relationships, I have these servers and all these physical assets, therefore I should be paying. But the shift, you'd always see that a new player coming in and that replacing the incumbent. And it only like companies like Microsoft have actually survived that. Like had gone through so many remounting moments because they are paranoid, they are beginning to change the mindset. So coming back in terms of the question that you said, what does it mean to an agent made of organizations? Whether it as AI native or agent first, it is really about willing to have that conversation. Saying, hey, I'm gonna assume that the words started today. I'm going to assume that the agents are going to be able to do the job of as good as 60% today. If I combine scaling law with that, it's like another 6 months, another 12 months, and it'll be that, close to 80 to 90%, which is good enough for. So I need to actually invest my time right now on saying, how do I think about that agent plus human combination? What are the things? In fact, yesterday I had a conversation with a like now broad farm friend of mine, and this is the same thing I was sharing with him. But somewhere in the last 18 months, the shift has happened. We used to think that the future of work is about digital power. Future of work is just doing work. Hands to NemoClaw and OpenClaw. It has just gotten slightly redefined, saying future of work is a human plus law. And Claw is just basically a AI Android. And that is a conceptual understanding that most people aren't getting it because they just think about it that, hey, it's a new keyword that has been dropped into the word. But if you actually parse Cure, you're actually saying, hey, no, it's your friend who's going to hang around with you, the Pokemon. Or it is that Jarvis in your office that is going to do all the work that you ask it to do. And it is going to be extremely personal for you. So if that is the world that we are living in, the future of the world that is human plus clause, then design the organization saying, I have 10 claws, 2 humans involved to do a specific function or a job or a work. That conversation, that mental model shift, that the funding business model shift for that, that needs to happen. And leaders that are equipped to have the courage to have that conversation are the leaders who are able to actually cross that shift. What do you think? I'm disgusted about this.
No, I'm playing this game, so I'm more and more invested into this. Uh, I think there'll be multiple ways in which this would unfold. I would not be surprised that we see emergent of only pure AI robotic organizations. For example, our friends at Random Labs are running Branding Bench, and we are trying to run a similar experiment where a part of the business is self-autonomously managed by agent. So I would see that the genesis of AI managed, AI executed organizations, well, it's already started to happen. And on labs and on FM now, which is running FM station to be by agent. So there will be power systems that will be purely agentic by design. Then there'll be sort of this mixed hybrid organizations. For example, there are a lot of organizations, if we take Coca-Cola of the world, Pepsi Cola, and so on and so forth. I think a lot of value really doesn't come pure from being purely AI only. The value comes from tapping into human emotions, creating bright lines which change with generational shifts. So I think those organizations would be human plus agent, and there'll be a part of the organizations which would be purely human as well, wherein you're having deep connects with humans. So I think all three waves will be there. But importantly, the point you mentioned, like the definition of speed has suddenly changed. I think that's where this really shift has to happen in minds of the leaders. So if you're thinking of how to construct your organization, uh, act from bottom up to top down, we'll have to start picking people within the organization who redefine the rate of change for themselves and for the organization in order to be able to deal with uh, the entire changing nature of the world that we are in. And people who are able to do that, I think, are the ones who will stay ahead. For example, if you take the Anthropic by itself, they released a video or that Martin department has adopted AI. They're generating AI generated videos, and they're very bold and open about it, saying that we are taking this bold step. We know we might not get it right the first time, but unless we run those experiments, learn for others, will not be able to design those systems in place such that we know what to be given to a agent and what or and what a human should add value. So I think that strategic unlock it only happen if you're deep down in the waters, and it's not something like I said like well, the playbook get defined and they'll get in. Or maybe if you do that, for sure this time you're not just going to be left behind, probably even be decimated.
I'm particularly not a big fan of the the keyword called playbook. And specifically now, because like, when business model shifts, platform shifts are happening, there won't be any playbook. People are actually doing it change that they are like, literally from 5-0. So you will have to do like, ground up what's principle based in you will like how you said, like, would have to actually roll your sleeves and get involved and see, experience it. Unless you experience it, you will not know what Pokemon eats. Right? Unless you experience it, you would not know about the power of it. And you'll just, listen to other people talk about it and let's say, hey, here is that, here is this, right? Maybe it is a second wave, right? Once the first wave winners get settled, and then, there is a second wave that happens and people can talk about, okay, here's one company that won and they followed EC3s and therefore, like, can I follow two strings? I mean, in SaaS, if you really look at it from an India perspective, in like it was in the second wave, like SaaS companies like started emerging really well because things were settled. It was clear as to how Salesforce had won, and then it was clear like how HubSpot had won, and then you saw it started keep all these other companies that are saying, oh, inbound marketing, it is actually adopt that particular playbook. But first way, you cannot have big, right? You will have to actually do first principles C. Actually, I had one question for you. I know you've been on the road for the last 3-4 weeks talking to people as all these places that are talking about OpenClaw, NemoClaw. What was your most frustrating experience, but also what was your most mind-blowing? Oh my, this is not the habit.
Oh yeah, I'll talk to the frustrating experience. Uh, I don't know how to put it, but having said that, yet one of the part of the organization we are looking at, they are trying to build an exchange agentic software. And last 6 months, the debate has been on what should be built and how should it be built and all the technology layers. Back and front, it doesn't matter. The way I look at it is, by the time even they would have conceptualized it, I would have shipped 4 versions of software out into the market and tried it testing. The question is, you need to start speaking to what users want.
I want you to reveal the name. Yeah, it is the leader and agent first and native thinker or claims to be.
That's a funny part of it. They claim to be AI native and AI native thinkers, and that's where I think the challenge is not the business player. I would put it. Always the challenge lies in the technical way, because they have accumulated depth of what does technology architecture look like and start to architect the solutions behind it. But fundamentally, you have to sort of realize that when you're developing AI native system, you can throw all your architecture principles aside. And before you get into that, I'm not saying well architected is what you need. But the question is, are you solving the right problem? Ask the right questions. Then you can start layering your system. So I think the concept of this is where I think startups have a strategic advantage. If you look at every single AI native solution that's coming out, the startups are leading this wave because they are not focusing on technology for, I mean, they're adopting the latest and the greatest, but they're trying to solve the right problems. So my suggestion to them will always be, hey, talk to the users, stop building castles in your mind. By the time you are even able to build your first agent, there'll be four waves that would have passed. So I think that's how I.
So I guess that's been my frustration. We may not be able to find fault with them. They may be right about what they know at what work, but it looks like they're bringing in raga to a beatboxing fight. Right? It's just that the genre has moved and so up very classical music, and this is not the right kind. That raga.
Yeah, that's right. And that's been a frustration. But on the same note, right? When I was in the Miami, then back in New York, back in I did a lot of interviews with ancient humans. Like, are you afraid of this AI wave? And fundamentally, uh,
I said no.
I said no. They don't care. And I asked them why. They believe that the sooner they adopt, the better they'll get at it, and hence they'll have a strategic end. And the whole thinking and the thought process is there's so much work that was to be done, that is yet to be done. And if we are able to catch up with the backlogs with the technology, I think we'll be strategically ahead. That's one way of thinking. The second surprise I had is the rate of adoption varies across most because within given US. As suppose like in the next century, and when you fly to the East Coast, it's like a decade behind. And then if you come to India, a surprise like we had a meetup last week, right? And people are already talking about NemoClaw. So I think
Well, most of them are like surprised. So that, hey, I couldn't. And they're like, no, I had phone.
yeah, I think that's part of the nature we are talking about, right? And my surprise has always been people who are non-technical, who are CEOs, are the first who are attacking this problem. And they're so excited and energetic to get class running versus technical people like, oh shit, like what's coming my way. I think it's
So I think that the end users are enjoying the boxing. The technical folks are debating raga. This is not the right raga to actually use this music. But the genre has shifted. The vibe has moved on, and they take a lot of users.
and are you a technical person? So it's not like
See, you're the real technical person who is able to actually say, "Hey, I'm gonna go by what." The guy is like, "I go by the vibes, right?" You need to go by the vibe. I'm saying, "Hey, what is the music that the audience is liking?" The fast shift has happened, and change has happened, and then whatever people are on a group to, and before it becomes like a big deal, like you need to know that what are these sucky shifts that are happening, and then like catch on to it. And people who are not able to make that shift are someone who's like very hardcore traditional, saying this is how it ought to be, right? And anyone who is like very very strong in their experience rooted in that. That is why in startup he said you need to have strong opinions, deeply held. You need to have the emotional certainty, but intellectual certainty. It's like great scientists like embody. You need to know what had shifted. My belief that you can start off works. Of course it works. And you have to stand on those shoulders to look beyond the horizon that are. But then you go to talk about atomic particles and you realize that it doesn't work. But you're like, oh, around here and so it's supposed to work. This is wrong. This is wrong. When, like, so Rigid Payman said, right? When you come up with a theory, you have to actually say, look, I'm going to go and write something. This is my theory. This is how I think the world works. Or this is how my experience works. The moment you change when you see that there is a change, that the observation of the world is different. So who's wrong? You have mental, but you have past experience, right? And it's move on. And that's where the people are.
so what I found is like your interview with Anish, the CEO of Capillary. He's an accomplished leader, taken Capillary. Asking how should I take a look at Capillary at the agent first organization?
Ready to be. I better build it fresh. The right shit.
The right shit. So if you really look at it, these are the questions not just to be executed at a strategic CEO level. Every single person should ask this question. I think if any organization is able to succeed, I see Claude and Anthropic being able to succeed at it, that organization will have an edge that's unprecedented. And today, the only mode that I see existing is speed until something else settles down. So I think that's how I see this landscape actually work.
Yeah, I want to shift the conversation a little bit. Go back to our NemoClaw discussion.
Yeah.
lot of discussion where happened on whether to chip, right? And then also on NVLink. Uh, and NemoClaw was like an important announcement for sure. But most people are actually saying that this seems to be charity. The strategy, like, the announcement that, like, people are like, oh, looks like this works on all hardware. Ah, like, counterintuitive for a hardware company to say, hey, I am building something which is not a fork of OpenClaw, just a layer on top of OpenClaw. It's the security slash guardrail layer for OpenClaw. Of course, you're like, putting it in the sandbox. They're saying it is free. What is your take? So I agree.
So I'm a big follower and fan of Jensen. If Jensen is getting you something, he looks at strategic horizon like in 2 3 years. But really look at it, he happens to look little beyond the server grade chips and start looking at Nvidia Jetsons and other Nvidia devices that are coming out. So if you really look at it, when we start thinking of OpenClaw and its autonomy, extend it to all hardwares that Nvidia is going to manufacture, I think this is a strategic unlocking every other hardware that was. What did OpenClaw do? OpenClaw led to unprecedented sales of MacMe. And if you really look at it, there's been a beautiful DJ Spark box sitting around there. People are confused whether to buy it or not. Nvidia came and gave one solid reason why you could buy DJ Spark, why you buy the Jetsons. And I think that's one way of looking at it. That's from a sole hardware and marketing sales perspective. But if you look one step beyond, what is trying to create is nothing but is creating the next Red Hat of the world, uh, uh, wherein he is laying the foundation of where the next generation of commits go. Now, suddenly, all the GitHub commits which are going to open law, when an enterprise steps in, when those commits start flowing to uh, NemoClaw, the kind of PRs gives you the analysis of what are the PR requests coming, what does it press really want. So he's looking for those early signals. I think that's a first way I look at it. And if someone knows what is coming, I think you can engineer the hardware, the software really, really well. I think that's way that is up.
He,
Yep.
right? If you actually track CUDA, because of CUDA, like he's not reported like, hey, it is CUDA specific red. But CUDA was like, 10 like 20 years ago, but that was his most strongest strategic move. We got an entire generation or maybe full generation of researchers learn CUDA, become dependent on CUDA. So then when you go ahead and say, I'm going to use GPU or I'm going to train on that, then yes, they go and this is like the layer that makes Nvidia hardware get chosen. So while it's at the surface level, he says that, so there are two things he's saying, right? First of all, he's saying, I know OpenClaw will be unlocked, but I'm betting on any agent that if I OpenShell works on all agents, not just OpenClaw. Right? But he's also actually saying that today you will say, yeah, it works on any hardware. But guess what? If it is not running on a NIM point, if it is not running on an Nvidia RAD, then it is not going to go that fast. So he's getting everybody to this adopt. It looks like open, but he's actually making them dependent. And this is Jensen genius. He's done that with Pula. And most people are not realizing that they're going to play with NemoClaw today. And I would only say that, 90 days later, all the CIO has to do is, what are the number of NVIDIA related endpoints that are getting added to this YAML file, right? So today it'd be very few. But over a period of time, we'll be like, oh yeah, our NemoClaw is working. But this will work greatest only when we have the hardware ability. So he is influencing their choice down the line by making it secure, giving the enterprise cover now, and making it make a CUDA there. So you cannot see that he's actually saying that with NemoClaw I will take money, but with NemoClaw I will influence the decision that the LP make that want to live our at the least.
One up to what you said. I feel it's like creating Android ecosystem and Apple ecosystem. So paraphrasing what you said. If every single what ARM did a great unlock, it holds the entire mobile market and a lot more, right? Devices market. So I feel like that's an entry point for him. He's creating an ecosystem for NemoClaw. He'll become the and imagine all those plugins, everything, all is going in those. I think, but he also face a good competition. But I would love
Yeah,
Nvidia.
tech is competing well within. And what would be like, if you're like someone like AMD, if you're someone like Microsoft, how do you suddenly respond to something like this? Now, if you look at this and then say, hey, hardware company made a CUDA like declaration about the software and this does not make any sense to them, not something that they're going to make it revenue on. Then what would Microsoft and AMD should? What
Okay,
no, should?
so I think the strategy cannot make up from Google otherwise. Well, no, Microsoft probably. The reason we that is either Apple or Google have the pedigree and the responsibility of building an ecosystem. They have done it time and again. Microsoft, right. Microsoft has done it, but at a different perspective.
But they have we picked that piece.
They have picked it. Microsoft is like, or you build the ecosystem and or you EA the participant. Like, Satya has a whole different strategy. He bet on OpenAI on top they'll go pick Anthropic. So his word date multiple
Sales master strategy guy.
yeah.
I love every strategy guy.
But if you want to look at a hardware layer and I take an entire full stack AI company, I think the other company in the world is Google. I think they have a strategic advantage to be able to launch, I would say, Google Claw or whatever it could be, and build an ecosystem around what does the integration do. And that's where the strategic unlockers will come. Microsoft is definitely going to be a participant. I think the people at watchful are OpenAI. Here is one company that's taking, which has a dual battle strategy, right? If NemoClaw takes off and it comes to de facto integration of it, I think we talked about the age of what do you have to say, a UI-less software or agentic software like
What called heightless as a this fieldless. Yeah, speaks.
I think NemoClaw gives you that entry point into the age of stateless software. You have a voice interface to it and then it's soft software. I think when that unlock has come in, I think NemoClaw is sitting at the same profit. And who will over? I mean, I don't mean by any means to say that chat conversation is will go away, but this emerges. I think that's a play that
But look, you talked about OpenAI is like an where they just decided to shut down Sora.
yeah, the game of Sora is like a different game. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. I think OpenAI is in say IPO mode like many others.
I just hate that they'll go back to wild experiments again.
They know that if I was OpenAI, I would lean Sam Altman as the best strategist. The reason being that is two things, right? Number one, if token back piece of the world, which is code generation, content creation, are the one that's speaking way, I would shift my strategic GPU budget to that because that's where the money lies. So, and Sora was this game that will be played in it. Oh, one day this will unlock, that will unlock. So, I think that's the way I see Sora play out. So,
Yeah, it's about kill the inference here. You also put out both saying that the inference workloads for multimodal is like very very different from inference workload. But just coming back on NemoClaw, so you're saying that there is Google, there is Anthropic, there is OpenAI, and maybe Microsoft, Google, Anthropic are the ecosystem players. And looks like Jensen's mode is that an ecosystem play. It is not like that you play or he's not building razor and blade strategy. He's literally kind of built the ecosystem so that the ecosystem choices he can govern and control.
eventually,
Yeah, and you're saying Google is just gonna do this through. So you have all.
I think even Meta bought into the hardware here. So they are also seeing that the control actually eventually happens at the chip layer. I think Meta is also a great ecosystem player. They are few profits. All people who want to play the ecosystem game will have some form of claw or whatever it is emerging. I think NemoClaw is one of the many forms that has come. There'll be more forms that will emerge. Those what Jetson is, and this is what Jetson is betting on. And he has never had enough table stake in ecosystem play. For the very first time, he had this ability to keep coming to that. What's it like? Because at a different scale, right? At a different.
By taking something like an A2A protocol kind of TCP box, and that I have a follow up question on this. And like, what would be the response? Like, what would be one response of Google app copy?
Oh, if I were there, I would just go and create a marketplace plugins for it, and then start with
Like a plumber.
like a Play Store order it would be. The reason is the moment the first person who gets entry to play in the market system play. Today, if you really look at it, we take YouTube as an example. The more the people who come and participate in the ecosystem, the more likelihood that that the operator actually tends to make money. So I think the response to them is they have the strategic playbook of how to create the YouTube market system, a Play Store market system. I think that's a play that Google will start with probably, but it let it evolve from that. They are quite good at running experiments. Meta's play would be totally different. So I think different people will come up with different playbooks, and I would love to see how it actually evolves. If I were Google, that's what I'd use first because I know the
Anthropic.
Anthropic play would continue to be what they are really doing. Their layer has been always a backend, so they are more like evaluating model plus plus. So I think they would probably be like a Red Hat of the world. In that, if you choose NemoClaw, apart from NemoClaw, we are the model communicate, and you will do the best financial calculation. We'll do they came up with this telecom bench, banking bench, etc. If they capture the top by industries, that's an unlock they would have seen. And no matter where you are, your memory stay key. Since I call your memory, I can tell you this.
So I think that's a play that Anthropic's played. So it looks like it's not charity from Jetson. So it looks like you're getting hooked into it, and you might get hooked in like deeper later. Yeah, what should I see?
CIS playbook is very simple. I think there are three questions one must ask. One, what does it mean for me and my organization? I think that's a very important question to ask. LMD sits at a different vantage point. So if I would start asking the question to myself, how do I design the ATP first round? What are the functions that happen on the strategy for letting you well? The second question is, what are the business models I should think of apart such that I can be part of the ecosystem play? If I'm a service industry, how do I work in that system? If I'm what are the strategic product or not for have? I don't believe SaaS is dead. I strongly believe that it's about to use agentic operator model. The third question, which is even more harder to ask, is if all these plays are going on, like at an ecosystem level, at an organization level, etc., I would start focusing on what are the three things that I need to do to hold my memory, over my intelligence, and over my destiny. Because unless I am able to have control of myself, let I won't be able to keep my sleep value to myself. So I think if I'm a large enterprise as a CIO, I think I'm not saying even more part of art. I'll start investing it, controlling my memory, controlling my destiny. That's the play I would double down upon. And let's say now that I'm able to keep that in control, Liverpool is just a tool for me and I will deploy it and so on.
So the first news that I woke up to today, you presented Anthropic subscription explodes. Right? Maybe because of Michael's announcement or that what? I don't know, some trigger happened and I'm like, oh my god, more people lost that. I had this conversation yesterday, somewhere in the very old non-profit sector, and then they said, the default tool is Copilot, and that wait till Clockwork becomes the default tool. It is his user abuses Copilot. They would have paid sold a license from Microsoft, but then where they are going to sort of go around and then see how Clockwork works, and they get adopted, and then an incumbent in that play, they'll actually say, hey, we're going to do a partnership with Anthropic. Clockwork becomes the default, and then all the learning goes to Anthropic. So to the point that we keep talking about saying, own your model, own your destiny. No, this was horrifying to do. That's that I was having
problem start going away from moving more low this. Yeah, we even start with something slowly memory over this.
You if you're using
We hung law deployment in enterprises. The one of the most important function or interaction that we are looking at is, hey, are we keeping a memory of the conversation between floor and the keyboard or one floor and another floor? And what do this conversation look like? And based on that, what are the areas
loaded budget.
how do you what is the learning you have from that? Because the value of that information is so short-lived. Like that, what are you learning from in terms of patterns and
Itself because like invest in every memory comes. But whether they're going to have like a winning architecture or not a winning architecture, you know,
E memory from open or so memory have a lot of unlock because it gives three things. One, it gives strategic context for the models to operate on. Two, it gives you ability to sort of control the direction of where the user should go. Three, it helps you sort of design new products and services based on the changing preferences. Because changing at the rate that's unprecedented. So I think start with only multi over there.
so that brings me to an interesting question. So how is the memory there, or what are the layers that are there, not there in NemoClaw, which is CIO or anybody else thinking about enterprise perspective? Think about. I can think of identity. I can think of payment. We talk about memory. See, the whole NemoClaw is just a last shell around open flaw, which is actually bringing in the governance batch together.
I think there are many layers. So if you really look at it, let's go to the example of implementation that we're doing so that we put some grounding or truth around. If you really look at it when you're building agent organization, it's very similar to how you build human organizations, which means the agent has a set of tasks to do, human has a set of tasks to do. You'll have to go to the granular level of what can an agent be. So that's like
Plus, what a human cannot do, therefore, also every audit cannot.
yeah, what a human cannot do and only agent can do. So I think that's a static part of it. Now, once you create a catalog of this, very, I think that's the first thing, right? Now, if you really look at it, I mean, this is where actually companies like LangChain and
Landclaw at a thread because now agent becomes the orchestration layer, but he's a master. We pay him.
oh yeah, and sure,
Legendaries of the evolving and saying that this free, but agent company now.
when you're in a backend, you expect the landscape to evolve. So I do expect this year. So, but having said that, coming back to the conversation of what are the layers that are not there, right? I think the biggest layer that is not there is how a memory is stored, how a workflow is stored, and how a work gets done, definition of work gets done. I think that yet evolving at the stage, and that very important, at least for next 1 or 2 years, because that defines the design of your AI first or agent first organizations. I think that's a layer. The second layer is beyond what work gets done, is the synthesis layer among all the tasks that is being there, because that holds the intelligence to the future and more. I think these are the two starting points that are not there, and I don't think any ecosystem player wants to get into that at this point in time. Because they are choppy waters, they are the early signals for the enterprises to eat, and that's too myopic for somebody to play. But has strategy and popular enterprise, I think.
Yeah, but I guess this is where a lot of YC company will come and chip in. Like it's like a YC. So there are like companies which are building email inbox only for it. If you try to do it in deep for the new one, then you lose the domain. You only get banned by two. So there are like infrastructure companies that are coming and saying what's number only for it.
Yeah.
I know of course there are phone numbers with WhatsApp only for it, right? Or phone numbers with telecom only for it. So these type of primitives will emerge, and then you find a way to sort of mix and match. I mean, fill a lot of these missing layers, and unless you missing layers that takes full adoption. It's like giving like additional limbs and additional body parts. Memory.md is saying, okay, we need memory. There is a heartbeat.md saying, how fast are you going to look at insects the word? And there is a soul.md. So looks like a
My part is dot every year become the new data gist.
I think that battle was settled 12 months ago. There's no vector database and they are embedding focus today.
There is, but I think they are only for specialized use cases. For most general use, that flat files are only
Flat files. Wait, wait, this. Oh, it's a question of say, it's the balance. If we say, hey, there is a car, like let's not focus on the engine, let's focus on the car. And then that, or you use the human anatomy as a metaphor, and you're saying, yeah, there are so many missing limbs. And when you add these limbs, then you get the AI employee that can replace the data scientist. Then the AI employee that actually replaces a social media and even a employee that can actually replace a coder or a software engineer. And then, like, when you have these conversations and you completely redesign your organization to say, oh, you need 10 AI employees and you need 2 human employees. And then we can talk about like an AI native organization. I think Jensen is investing in that future of saying future is the same plus dogs like that. He wants to be at the very important layer. And he's putting that ecosystem layer and everybody will have their play on saying what is a good choke point or good control point where you can actually decide, okay, downstream all the sources for hardware plus software will be paid by someone. And this is where, even though I'm very excited by what my boss is going to bring, this is going to be very powerful model. But I think somewhere, like, just in this year, we've shifted the conversation from saying, hey, it's not about the models. So it's like, so it is about the harness. The model building is still going to be very, very important, right? And it is going to play an important role. But it is what you do beyond the model. Isn't that the foundation? So, Kashik, with that, I think, it should wrap up today's session till we meet you guys next time.
It is a lovely exploration. I think we also have a CEO on the largest open pi event here in Bangalore. NemoClaw on Marina. I think looking to see you on there. And let's hang out on RPMI on about NemoClaw.
See you next time.